Picture this. It's like 2 in the morning. The fluorescent lights of the all-night pharmacy are practically vibrating above you.
Oh man, we have all been there.
Right. You are exhausted, you're completely stressed out, and you're holding a crying infant who has been sick to their stomach for hours.
It is the worst feeling in the world.
It really is. So you rush to the aisle, you scan the shelves for that one specific medical hydration drink the doctor told you to get. You spot the familiar, brightly colored box, grab it, pay, and you just run home. Problem identified, solution purchased.
It feels like a clean, simple transaction. We lean on that simplicity heavily.
Exactly.
Because when we're in a panic over a sick child, we implicitly trust that the systems surrounding us, like the labels on the shelf, the brand names, the regulators, we assume they've completely removed the guesswork from the equation.
We just assume a box that looks like medicine is actually medicine.
Right.
But imagine you look a little closer at that box in your kitchen counter, and that comforting certainty it evaporates. You realize you didn't buy medicine at all.
Which is terrifying.
Right. You grabbed a sugary energy drink that just happens to be dressed up in a visual disguise, completely masquerading as the clinical hydration your child desperately needs.
And that is exactly what we are getting into today. Welcome to the deep dive.
Yes, welcome. Today, we are wading into a profoundly messy landscape where the hard, objective lines of medical science crash headfirst into the highly subjective, fiercely competitive world of consumer marketing.
It is the absolute definition of regulatory muddy waters. We're looking at the friction point between the strict letter of the law and the messy reality of human psychology.
So to navigate this, we've pulled together a massive stack of sources for you today. We're looking at investigative journalism reports, medical guidelines from the World Health Organization.
The WHO.
Right, the WHO. Plus federal regulatory filings from India and some incredibly aggressive corporate legal notices.
It's quite a stack.
It really is. Our mission for this deep dive is to unpack an 8-year, deeply complex David versus Goliath battle playing out right now in India.
So on one side, we have Dr. Sivaranjani Santosh. She's a pediatrician based in Hyderabad, fighting against what she calls fake ORS, or oral rehydration salts.
And on the other side is an entire regulatory framework and Kenvue, which is the consumer health division of pharmaceutical giant Johnson & Johnson.
But, before we go any further, we really need to establish the stakes here, because this is far beyond a trivial dispute over grocery store aesthetics.
Yeah, this is serious.
Exactly. Citing the World Health Organization from our sources, acute diarrheal diseases are a leading cause of mortality in infants and young children globally. This is a massive life or death issue.
And the primary, most effective weapon the medical community has to prevent those deaths is a very specific, clinically prepared glucose electrolyte solution.
Right. That is what genuine ORS is. It is quite literally a lifesaver.
Now, just as a quick heads up before we dive into the weeds of this conflict, we are looking at a highly charged dispute. You've got passionate medical professionals, massive corporations, and major medical associations.
It gets really heated.
Extremely. So I just want to state clearly that our job today is not to take sides or play judge and jury. We are here strictly as your guides, impartially unpacking the facts, the arguments, and the ideas contained within our sources.
Which is vital, because the questions raised in this specific Indian medical dispute apply to almost every single packaged product we consume globally.
It really forces you to ask how much you actually understand about what you're buying.
Exactly. So let's start with the biology, because the entire corporate conflict hinges on why the specific ingredients inside an ORS packet matter so much.
Right. It's not just a matter of drinking a glass of water when you're parched. When a child has a severe diarrheal disease, their digestive tract is violently rejecting fluids.
Yeah, everything is just flushing right out.
So think of the human small intestine as a locked door. That door's job is to let water out of the digestive tract and into the bloodstream. That's how actual hydration happens.
But during an illness, the system shuts down. The door gets locked.
Exactly. And to force that locked door open, you need 2 very specific keys turning the lock at the exact same time. One key is sodium, and the other key is glucose.
Right. And to put a bit of the underlying science on that analogy, without turning this into a physiology lecture, obviously.
Please don't.
I won't, I promise. But what you were describing are specific cellular pathways called cotransporters. They are microscopic mechanisms in the intestinal wall that are literally physically shaped to require both a sodium molecule and a glucose molecule simultaneously.
So if you try to stimulate that pathway with just water or just sodium, what happens?
The mechanism simply fails to trigger. The water just passes right through the body.
Wow. So the entire concept of ORS is essentially a biological hack to force the body to absorb water when it otherwise refuses to.
Exactly. It's brilliant. But here is where the modern beverage market complicates things. Our sources show a massive trend of fruity electrolyte drinks trying to appeal to health-conscious consumers.
Oh, right, by cutting out sugar and substituting it with artificial sweeteners like sucralose.
Yeah. And the problem with that trend is that biology does not care about consumer calorie counting trends.
Biology wants what it wants.
Exactly. A lot of these beverage companies will argue that replacing glucose with an artificial sweetener like sucralose doesn't significantly alter the solution's osmolarity.
Osmolarity being basically a measure of how crowded a liquid is with dissolved particles, right?
Yeah, you got it. So on paper, the liquid might look like it has the right density, but an artificial sweetener absolutely cannot act as that second key.
Because it's literally the wrong shape for the lock.
Exactly. Sucralose might taste sweet to your tongue, but it cannot bind to that cellular co-transporter in the intestine. Without the actual glucose molecule, the door stays locked.
Meaning, if you give a dangerously dehydrated child a drink sweetened with sucralose instead of glucose, you might feel like you're actively hydrating them.
But their body's just standing in front of a locked door getting weaker.
That is terrifying. And that specific biological reality is the bedrock of Dr. Santosh's entire campaign, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. She spent years utilizing social media, filing complaints, and just relentlessly trying to educate the public about brands that were selling these artificially sweetened, fruity electrolyte drinks.
Brands that were improperly positioning them as clinical oral rehydration therapy.
Exactly. And her campaign eventually triggered a massive regulatory earthquake. In October 2025, she secured a milestone victory.
Okay, what happened?
The Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, the FSSAI, which is a massive federal regulatory body there, they stepped in and issued a sweeping, strict directive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They prohibited manufacturers from labeling their electrolyte drinks as ORS unless the formulation adhered strictly to the World Health Organization's exact standardized formula.
So you could no longer just throw some table salt and artificial sweetener into a plastic bottle and legally call it ORS.
Right. It was a monumental win for medical accuracy. The FSSAI established a hard, unyielding boundary.
So suddenly, massive corporations were forced to immediately rethink their product lines, their marketing strategies, and their packaging.
Yeah, and Kenvue in particular was caught right in the crosshairs of this.
Kenvue being the consumer health division of Johnson & Johnson.
Exactly. They had an incredibly popular, dominant brand in India called ORSL, and it had historically been marketed as an ORS drink.
But the new federal ruling meant that the marketing for ORSL was instantly illegal.
Right. But, when a federal agency shuts down a massive revenue stream, a multinational corporation doesn't just shrug and walk away.
No, of course not. They adapt. The FSSAI closed a door, so Kenvue found a window.
And boy, did they ever.
They introduced a rebranded energy drink to the market. They called it ERZL. That's ERZL.
It is a fascinating pivot. I mean, they essentially created a parallel product to navigate around the FSSAI's new restricted definition of ORS.
Okay, wait. Let me play defense for Kenvue here for a moment.
Oh, right. Go for it.
Because reading through their corporate filings in our sources, they make a really compelling, legally airtight argument.
I mean, they have good lawyers.
They really do. Kenvue didn't just quietly slap a new sticker on an old bottle. They explicitly positioned ERZL as a renewed composition.
Okay, true.
They clearly advertised that it contained 1.4 times more electrolytes and 8 times less sugar than their previous iterations.
Yeah, they were very public about the changes.
Right. And more importantly, they fully complied with the FSSAI order. The packaging for ERZL explicitly labels it an electrolyte drink, not an ORS. So if we are looking purely at corporate compliance and transparency, hasn't Kenvue checked every single legal box the government asked them to? Isn't this just a company following the new rules?
Well, see, if you're looking at a regulatory spreadsheet, yes, absolutely. They followed the directive perfectly. The ingredients matched the legal category, and the forbidden acronym was removed from the product description.
So case closed, right?
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But this is where Dr. Santosh raised a completely different set of alarms.
What's fascinating here is that her objections were no longer about the chemical breakdown printed in tiny font on the back of the bottle.
Exactly. Her objections were rooted entirely in human perception and visual design.
Okay, explain that.
Well, she pointed out the extreme phonetic similarity between the old trusted brand name, ORSL, and the newly launched brand, ERZL. Try saying them quickly, out loud, one after the other.
ORSL, ERZL. Oh, wow. Yeah. If you're in a noisy pharmacy or dealing with different regional accents or just speaking quickly to a clerk, they are practically indistinguishable.
Exactly. But the auditory confusion is just one thing. The visual execution is what truly escalated the conflict.
What did they do with the packaging?
Dr. Santosh highlighted that on the ERZL packaging, the letter E is designed with a very specific stylization. The font curves and closes in on itself so much that it remarkably resembles an O.
Oh, that is so sneaky.
Right. You now have a product that sounds almost exactly like the old trusted ORS brand and visibly looks almost exactly like the old trusted ORS brand, sitting in the exact same spot on the pharmacy shelf.
It's incredible. You've essentially bypassed a federal medical regulation with a graphic design choice.
Yeah, and Dr. Santosh actually challenged this publicly. She asked, do you really think a consumer can draw discretion between the two products, even when they sound so much alike?
Because when humans are stressed, like our parent at 2 a.m. from the start of the show, we do not carefully read every individual letter on a box.
No, we absolutely don't. We process shapes, colors, and overall patterns.
Right. We rely heavily on heuristics.
Exactly. Those are the mental shortcuts our brains use to make quick decisions without burning too much cognitive energy.
So if the box is the same vibrant color and the logo occupies the same space and roughly the same shape as the medicine we've bought before.
Our stressed brain instantly categorizes it as the same product.
Wow. And beyond the visual trickery, the sources show Dr. Santosh also raised serious medical alarms about the actual contents of ERZL.
Yes, specifically regarding vulnerable demographics. She pointed out the continued presence of sucralose and other non-nutritive sweeteners.
Which we know don't unlock the biological door for hydration.
Right. And she argued that the prolonged use of these artificial substances could be actively harmful to children under 2 years of age.
And that specific allegation, the combination of accusing a pharmaceutical giant of visual deception while also questioning the safety of their ingredients for toddlers, that is what triggers an overwhelming corporate counterstrike.
Oh yeah, the gloves come entirely off at this point.
The dispute completely abandons the pharmacy aisle and detonates in the legal realm. In March 2026, Kenvue slapped Dr. Santosh with a formal, highly aggressive legal notice.
And the language in Kenvue's legal filing is entirely uncompromising. Well, they accused Dr. Santosh of maligning the image of their energy drink with, quote, unscientific facts.
Yikes.
Yeah, and more severely, they formally accuse her of operating with malicious intent.
Malicious intent. Throwing that phrase at a practicing pediatrician who is publicly advocating for infant hydration protocols, that is a massive escalation.
It really is. But from a corporate defense strategy, Kenvue's legal team constructed a multi-layered, fiercely logical counter-argument.
Right. Let's look at how they dismantled her claims about sucralose.
Yeah, they pointed out that sucralose is an incredibly common ingredient found in countless beverages across the Indian market.
Which is true. It's everywhere.
Exactly. Therefore, they argued, her decision to selectively target their specific brand, ERZL, proved that she wasn't actually concerned about public health, but rather had a targeted, malicious motive to damage their business.
They actually combed through her past statements to trap her, didn't they?
They absolutely did.
The sources mentioned Kenvue's lawyers noted that Dr. Santosh herself had previously referred to the safety of sucralose as a, quote, debatable topic.
Yeah, so they used her own prior, scientifically nuanced stance against her to undermine the absolute alarm she was sounding now.
It's a brutal, highly effective legal maneuver.
It really demonstrates the immense resources a corporation can deploy when they're challenged. And they also fiercely defended their regulatory compliance.
Leaning back on that FSSAI ruling.
Right. They reiterated that to the letter of the law, ERZL is strictly FSSAI compliant. They argued that it is distinctly, legally packaged separately from their actual WHO-compliant ORS product.
Which they do still manufacture and sell under the ORSL name.
Yes, exactly. And they emphasized repeatedly that ERZL is definitively not marketed as an ORS drink, calling her claims about the visual and auditory resemblance unreasonable and baseless.
So Kenvue's position essentially boils down to, look, we changed the formula, we changed the name, and we changed the legal categorization on the box to match exactly what the government mandated.
Yeah. You are attacking us for a regulatory problem that no longer exists.
They fought the battle entirely on the grounds of technical compliance. If the FSSAI says the label is legal, then the label is legal. End of story.
Exactly.
But reading through the sources, the human element of what happens next is genuinely difficult to process.
It's pretty heartbreaking.
It is. Dr. Santosh is out there fighting for what seems like the most basic, undeniable good, just ensuring sick babies get the glucose they need to survive. You would assume the medical community would rally behind her.
You'd hope so. But instead, she experiences total institutional abandonment.
It's shocking.
It is a harsh reality, often faced by whistleblowers or independent advocates, honestly. When a single individual challenges a massive corporate entity, the institutional weight surrounding them often recoils in self-preservation.
It becomes incredibly isolating.
Completely.
She wasn't just ignored either. She was actively attacked by her own peers. Members of the Indian Academy of Paediatrics, the IAP, which is her own professional organization, they turned on her.
Yeah, our sources show they openly accused her of using this entire 8-year crusade against fake ORS as a publicity stunt.
Imagine dedicating nearly a decade of your career to public health protocols, only to have your colleagues accuse you of just trying to chase social media clout.
I mean, to understand why an organization like the IAP would react that way, we have to look at the broader ecosystem of medical associations.
Right, follow the money.
Exactly. These massive professional organizations rely heavily on pharmaceutical funding. Corporations sponsor their medical conferences, fund their continuing education programs, and underwrite their research grants.
And Kenvue, being a division of Johnson & Johnson, represents an enormous presence in that financial ecosystem.
Oh, huge. So when one rogue doctor begins aggressively attacking a major pharmaceutical player, it threatens the financial stability and the political relationships of the entire association.
The professional fallout for Dr. Santosh was just staggering. The sheer lack of support from the leadership of the IAP, combined with the looming threat of corporate litigation, it broke her spirits.
Yeah, the sources detail how she completely retreated. She temporarily deleted her social media accounts, shutting down the exact digital platforms she had utilized for years to build her public awareness campaign.
She actually gave an interview to reporters during this period where she said, "I am tired of fighting alone, and even my family is stressed about the situation."
She recognized a profound institutional failure. It shouldn't have required one exhausted pediatrician to fight this battle.
Right. It should have been a unified collective stand by the entire medical community to enforce ethical standards.
Exactly. And that realization of institutional failure led her to a definitive, drastic decision.
Yeah.
She completely walked away.
She officially exited the Indian Academy of Paediatrics.
And her parting words, as she resigned from the association, are arguably the most powerful insight in this entire deep dive.
What did she say?
She summarized the systemic failure in one devastating sentence. She said, "Pharmaceutical funding must not be prioritized over the health of our children."
Pharmaceutical funding must not be prioritized over the health of our children. Wow. It completely reframes the whole conflict.
It really does. It's an indictment of the unseen financial currents that dictate public health policies.
So where does this leave you, the listener? As you navigate the aisles of your local pharmacy or a grocery store tomorrow, surrounded by thousands of expertly designed packages, what is the core takeaway from this incredibly messy conflict?
Well, if we pull back from the specific medical jargon and the Indian regulatory acronyms, this story perfectly illuminates a fundamental, everyday tension in modern society.
Right.
It is the vast, dangerous chasm between what is legally compliant and what is ethically safe.
That's the crux of it.
Exactly. Oh, Dr. Santosh captured this brilliantly when discussing Kenvue's airtight legal defense. She openly conceded that they stand on incredibly strong legal footing.
But her counter-argument was this, and I quote, "Logically, all is fine, but when it comes to therapeutic ethics, why give a person even one chance to make a decision error while selling or buying these products?"
Why give a person even one chance to make a decision error? That question changes everything.
Because logically, Kenvue wins the argument flawlessly.
Oh, completely. The ingredients are accurately listed in the fine print. The FSSAI rules regarding the definition of ORS are technically followed.
The trademark for ERZL is legally registered as an electrolyte drink.
Right. If you are a corporate lawyer analyzing a compliance spreadsheet, the system worked perfectly.
But Dr. Santosh isn't a corporate lawyer. She is a frontline pediatrician operating in the chaotic, messy reality of human behavior.
And she knows firsthand that humans are inherently flawed. We are hurried, We are distracted by our phones. We are sleep deprived.
So when a massive corporation makes mathematically calculated minimal changes to a rebranded product, when an E is curved just perfectly enough to trigger the visual recognition of an O, it basically guarantees unintentional errors will occur.
Exactly. The exhausted parent will grab the box thinking it's the medicine they've bought before. The overworked shopkeeper will hand it over the counter without a second thought.
And when that split-second visual error results in an infant receiving a dose of artificial sweetener instead of the vital glucose their cellular biology desperately requires, all of that brilliant, logical, legal compliance suddenly feels remarkably empty.
It ruthlessly exposes the limitations of how we govern consumer goods. I mean, the law is incredibly effective at dictating the exact, literal text that must be printed on the back of a label.
It can mandate the parts per million of sodium.
Right. But the law struggles immensely to quantify, police, or regulate the psychological impact of a visual design.
Regulatory frameworks assume a world populated by perfectly rational consumers who read every single word on a box carefully.
Which is an absolute illusion.
It is a battle between two completely incompatible languages. The corporation is speaking the language of logic, technical definitions, and trademark law,
while the doctor is speaking the language of ethics, real-world consequences, and human vulnerability.
And when those two languages collide in the pharmacy aisle, the collateral damage is the consumer, who usually has absolutely no idea a multi-million-dollar war was fought over the font choice on the bottle in their hand.
And the human toll on the individuals who try to translate between those two worlds is immense.
Just look at Dr. Santosh. She fought relentlessly for 8 years. She actually succeeded in changing federal government regulations.
Yeah, yet her reward was being alienated from her professional peers, threatened with aggressive corporate litigation, and left feeling entirely hopeless.
It is a stark, uncomfortable reminder that winning a logical, legal argument does not automatically resolve the underlying ethical failure.
Right. So let's take a breath and recap the incredible ground we've covered today.
Yeah, let's bring it all together. We started way down at the microscopic level, exploring how the small intestine requires the twin keys of sodium and glucose to unlock cellular hydration.
Then we traced how that simple biological truth fueled a massive federal regulatory victory against fake ORS in India.
Right. Then we watched how brilliant corporate pivoting turned that medical victory into a masterclass in trademark loopholes and visual psychology.
And finally, we witnessed the heavy, isolating toll this battle took on one doctor who dared to suggest that technical legal compliance isn't nearly enough when a child's life is on the line.
It's a narrative that forces us to critically examine the safety nets we blindly trust. It proves that a seemingly simple plastic bottle on a shelf is actually the physical manifestation of complex, sometimes ruthless compromises between medical science, regulatory law, and corporate marketing strategies.
Which brings us right back to you, the listener, and that image we started with.
You're standing in that pharmacy aisle, you're holding that brightly colored box under the fluorescent lights, relying completely on the design of the label to tell you the truth.
But this deep dive leaves us with a lingering, deeply unsettling question to mull over long after you take your headphones off.
Right. If our massive federal regulatory systems, whether it's the FSSAI in India or the FDA closer to home, are only equipped to measure the chemical logic of a product and verify the literal text printed on the back,
how can society possibly hope to regulate the ethics of a visual illusion?
It is the ultimate blind spot in consumer protection. How do you draft a law against a shape that tricks the brain?
I mean, in a world where we routinely make split-second, potentially life-altering medical decisions based purely on the curve of a single letter on a cardboard box, who is actually protecting us from the shortcuts our own stressed minds take?
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay sharp, and always, no matter how tired you are, read the fine print. We'll see you next time.